Last week, $33 million was spent in the Kentucky Republican primary between Representative Thomas Massie and his Trump-backed challenger Ed Galrein, making it the most expensive House primary race ever. This influx of spending has pushed some Americans to ask, is there too much money in politics? Supporters of the current system say no. In their view, money enables speech, and the First Amendment does not allow the government to restrict political speech simply because it's influential. However, critics argue that the system has concentrated political power in the hands of a wealthy few. Now, a case out of Maine could force courts to revisit one of the core assumptions behind the modern super PAC era. Today, we're joined by two guests who have spent years on opposite sides of this debate, or so I think, we'll see. Larry Lessig is a Harvard law professor, the founder of the nonprofit Equal Citizens, and one of the country's leading advocates for campaign finance. Larry, welcome onto the show.
Thanks for having me.
And Paul Sherman, here to my left, is a senior attorney at the Institute for Justice and served as co-counsel in SpeechNow.org, the case that helped create the modern super PAC framework. Paul, welcome onto the show.
My pleasure.
Both first-time guests. Larry, I want to start with you. What is your interest in campaign finance issues and issues of political speech and spending more generally? Where did this originate?
Well, it was literally almost 20 years ago. I had been doing work on the internet and copyright. And a friend of mine, Aaron Swartz, came and said, why do you think you're ever going to make any progress on the issues I was working on, so long as we have this deeply corrupt system for funding campaigns? And I said, it's not my field, Aaron. And he said, you mean as an academic? And I said, yeah, I do copyright. I do internet policy. I don't do campaign finance reform. And he said, well, what about as a citizen? Is it your field as a citizen? And I realized he had kind of cornered me because it was true. I didn't think there was any substantial reform we were going to see in those esoteric areas and fundamental areas like climate change or any other important area of policy, given the corrupting influence of money inside of our political system. So I promised him that night I would take up the fight. We lost Aaron to suicide.
I was going to ask, is this that same Aaron Swartz?
Yeah, it's the same Aaron Swartz. We lost him to suicide. And when we lost him to suicide, I said I was going to work on this until we had a substantial victory. So that's what I've been doing for 20 years.
So you haven't had your substantial victory yet?
We're about to, but not yet.